Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Azka Tariq, your host for today's podcast, and we are joined by our guest Muhammad Ali, who is a senior analyst, and his main focus is on energy. Welcome, sir. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
our podcast. Sir, my first question from you is the perception about nuclear power is that it is very expensive. What is your take on it?
Thank you for having me and inviting me to talk about an important issue. Um, when one talks about a source of energy as expensive or inexpensive, it is very important to understand what is the approach and methodology to calculate the price or the cost. Um, Normally, most of the people who consider nuclear technology as expensive mainly focus only on the capital expenditure or the acquisition cost of purchasing or starting or establishing a nuclear power plant. What they neglect in their calculation is that the nuclear power plant, according to the modern technology, operates for almost 50 to 60 years. So its availability is for 50 to 60 years, and the amount which is spent on establishing, purchasing, or installing a nuclear power plant is spread over up to 60 years, which actually over its entire life cycle makes it cost effective, far more cost effective than many other sources which are considered short term, off the shelf solutions like IPPs, which I think are a huge burden on our economy and a main cause for inflation in our country.
Sir, what do you think is the difference between a nuclear power plant, hydropower plant, and fossil fuels, and which one of these three is most beneficial for Pakistan?
That's a very important question. Thank you for asking that. Let's talk about the hydel electricity first. It is a reality that once a dam is built or a power plant is built based on hydel power, its cost is not much. But there are two other factors which need to be considered. First off, that it requires a lot of time to be built. It requires a large financial arrangement, which requires probably borrowing from IMF, World Bank, or another financial institution, as we did in case of major projects like Tarbela Dam, Mangla Dam. So it also, like nuclear power plants, require these financial arrangements to be spread over a year. And once a customer like yourself or myself pay our electricity bill, the amount that we pay does not include only the charges for the electricity units consumed, it also includes capacity payment. And capacity payments reflects not just the government taxes, but also the amount which needs to be paid back to the organization or entity which financed that project. So, and the third factor in case of hydroelectricity, which needs to be considered and is mostly neglected, that the water is unfortunately not available in the same quantity throughout the year, especially in the winter months of December, January, February. Pakistan's water availability declines significantly. And just to let you know that our peak power consumption during summer period is around 24 to 25,000 megawatt, whereas the demand declines to almost one third during winter months of up to 8,000 to 9,000. And in that period, water is not available. So hydroelectricity cannot be produced in the adequate term. So in those 3 months, the emphasis again that based on a reliance over nuclear power as cheap, available, affordable, and environment friendly. Now let's quickly come to the fossil fuels like the natural gas, LNG, or furnace oil, for example. A very important thing for our audience to recognize is that the biggest burden on our economy right now is the cost of fossil fuel. We pay about 15 to 16 billion dollars a year for in terms of our import bill of the gas and the oil that we use, not just in our vehicles but also in our IPPs. Secondly, these are extremely damaging in terms of environment. And Pakistan, as you know, is the fifth most affected country in the world in terms of climate change. So that is not sustainable. And we have international legal commitments like Paris Treaty as well. The third aspect is that the per unit cost of hydrocarbon is much more expensive. The fuel cost of per unit of production of nuclear energy is less than 1.5 rupees per unit. Whereas in case of the hydrocarbons, it is much more expensive. And the most important thing I want to tell you is that even if you add the fuel cost and the capacity payment, only in one current fiscal year, if we produce 25,000 megawatt of electricity from hydrocarbon, we'll be making a payment of more than 700 billion rupees to these IPPs. Whereas if we produce the same quantity of energy from nuclear technology, we'll be saving almost 234 billion rupees only in 1 year. So it is cheaper and it is available, and the price is not sensitive to the geopolitics and crisis situation of the Middle East. And there is no commodity as sensitive to the security environment than oil and gas. The moment an incident or a crisis happens in Middle East, the price spikes up. So that is not the case with nuclear. And the fourth most important factor is the availability. Once a nuclear power plant starts, it has enough nuclear fuel stocked on site for 14 to 18 months of regular, uninterrupted operations. So the price fluctuation, availability, these things, supply chain risks are not relevant in this case. Whereas you require regular and frequent supply of gas and oil to keep the IPPs running. And fifth and most important factor, whenever you start a power project, in case of an IPP, the current interest rate over the loans and financial arrangements for those IPPs that Pakistan is currently making ranges from 12% to 17%. Whereas in case of the nuclear power plants, the interest rate is much lower, up to 3%. What does this mean in reality? It means in next 40 years, if we produce the same amount of energy from nuclear technology, which we have been doing from thermal energy or hydrocarbons, not only we will be saving more than 234 billion rupees every year, we will have environmentally clean energy. It will be available, unlike hydel, throughout the year, and it is also not affected and vulnerable to international price fluctuations.
So, as you just said, that hydropower plants have its own issues and fossil fuels has its own issues. So, how much investment do we need for a nuclear power plant, and what are the steps that we can take to obtain it?
I want to share with you that not many people know, but Pakistan has a very impressive reputation and stature as a very responsible, very careful, and very reliable nuclear power. Pakistan is one of the pioneers of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which was founded in 1957. In fact, our scientists and engineers command such respect internationally that Pakistan was elected as chair of the Board of Governors of International Atomic Energy Agency on 3 different occasions. So that is an evidence that Pakistan's mastery over nuclear technology is such that the entire international community trusts Pakistan with steering and providing leadership in promotion and use of safe, secure, and responsible nuclear technology use. Currently, Pakistan has 6 nuclear reactors already in operation, which add up to about 3,520 megawatt of electricity. And our efficiency and our technical competence is such that, just to share with you, the first nuclear power plant that we had was called Canoop, which is close to Karachi. Its design life was initially 30 years, but Alhamdulillah, we used it for 50 years. And every year, its safety, security, and all the technical requirements were certified by International Atomic Energy Agency. That is an evidence that our ability to use technology safely, securely, and responsibly is immaculate. And we have an energy vision based on nuclear technology for 2050. And the assessment of our Pakistan Atomic Energy Agency, Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, is that we can produce 44,000 megawatt of electricity by the year 2050 through nuclear technology alone, in a safe manner, in a reliable manner, in a cheap manner, and an environment friendly manner, much more than the current sources of, or traditional sources of, alternative energy that we have been using. I also want to add a very important information here, that there are some sources of energy which are available but politically challenging. For example, Kalabagh Dam. Kalabagh Dam could have been built in 60s, just like Mangla Dam, for example. But for political reasons, it has not been built. But if Kalabagh Dam is built, it will provide Pakistan 3,600 megawatt of electricity. In contrast, if Pakistan pursues and consistently develops in order to fulfill and achieve its nuclear energy vision 2050, I can tell you by year 2050, we will be producing energy from nuclear technology equal to 12 Kalabagh dams, which has no political challenge at the domestic level. So it will also help the country meet its energy security requirements without any political challenges as well.
So you also mentioned security issues. Sir, the normal perception is that a nuclear power is like dangerous or is not safe. So what do you think that what are the main safety concerns?
That's a very important question. I'll give you an answer that it is very important for our viewers to understand that radiation exists perpetually in environment. It is not something peculiar to nuclear technology. I'll give you an example. If you were working right next to a nuclear power project as an employee, for example, the amount of radiation that you will be exposed to will be less than what you are exposed to when you are taking a flight from Islamabad to Karachi. So you are exposed to radiation everywhere. The more important question is whether that radiation is safe and or not. So it is very important to know that the nuclear technology has developed to such an extent that its safety aspect is the most important aspect. When you consider its capital expenditure, its investment cost, the most important investment is to ensure that it is safe and secure. And the difference between safety and security is that safety involves avoidance of any accident, and security involves risks associated with any deliberate man-made effort to harm the facility. So both these factors are catered to adequately. So before a plant is established, before it becomes critical or starts operating, Pakistan has an independent nuclear regulator, Pakistan Nuclear Regulatory Authority, PNRA, and also it requires international certification by International Atomic Energy Agency. And our credentials have been immaculate. So there is no reason for our people to have any concerns regarding a safe, secure, responsible, and reliable use and mastery over nuclear technology to meet our national energy security needs in a reliable, environment-friendly, affordable, and sustainable manner.
So as you're pointing out these very important points, why is nuclear power still on low priority? Like why it is not on one of the top of the lists?
It's an important question. I think there could be two possible reasons. One is the lack of awareness. The second is lack of political commitment. As I earlier pointed out, that Pakistan is one of the pioneers of International Atomic Energy Agency in 1957, which means that how the nuclear technology has to be developed and used to meet energy needs of the entire world. Pakistan was one of the pioneering countries, which proves that the international community and the International Atomic Energy Agency looked up to Pakistani scientists and engineers to provide not just the knowledge and share it, but also guidance for the entire international community. But unfortunately, this trust and confidence that the International Atomic Energy Agency had in Pakistani scientists and engineers, it seemed was not shared over a consistent period of time by Pakistan's political leadership. That's why I think I must say that it was an unfortunate mistake that our nation is suffering for two reasons. Inflation, one of the major causes of inflation is high energy cost. Whether you are an employee, whether you are an industrialist, whether you are a trader, whether you are a domestic consumer, if the energy is expensive, your cost of production is expensive, your quality of life is affected. So the energy mix that we have developed in the last 60-70 years, unfortunately, is not environment friendly. It is externally dependent. It is risk prone to Middle Eastern crisis situation. And most unfortunately, it is also not available throughout the year. Nuclear energy surmounts and addresses all these challenges in a sustainable, affordable, environment-friendly manner. What is needed is a consistent political commitment in order to meet our national energy security requirements in an affordable and responsible manner, and rise beyond short-term politics, that I want to get votes in the next few years, so the plant must be completed before I go out of government. So this short-sighted approach must be overcome in the greater national interests of Pakistan, in the greater national energy security, because the most important cause of inflation is high energy cost of Pakistan. And if we have to manage inflation, if our political leadership has to manage inflation and meet the expectations of their voters and Pakistani nation, if we have to reduce the debt burden, if we have to reduce the risk that Pakistan's energy security faces due to the geopolitical crisis situation in Middle East, and if we have to make our products and services competitively priced and affordable in order to compete in the international market, I think nuclear energy is the best source.
So before I started studying or before I joined this field, I didn't know about anything about energy. So as you said that awareness is one of the keys to, make it a top priority. What do you think we can do to, spread awareness regarding it?
I think your podcast is a welcome start. I hope you do more programs on this, on different aspects. Energy is one aspect, but there are other aspects as well. Agriculture, health, research, medical research, which are equally important. Food security, in which nuclear technology is useful. Secondly, I think it is important that media should have more frequent programs so that public awareness is improved. Secondly, I think our seminars and conferences can be held, in which the political leadership and decision makers should also be there in order to benefit and improve their knowledge for better policy making. Thirdly, I think at academic level, in school, colleges, energy is a major issue of national security. It requires individual responsibility, safety, security. It requires understanding of the national issues. So I think it should also be part of the national curriculum.
So my last question is that the SDGs goals, the point number 7 and 13 coincides with this. So, sir, what do you think that Pakistan is doing, or what should it do to reach that goal?
I think two things. Number one, In the COP28 summit last year, which was held in UAE, Pakistan has already shared a goal with the international community that by year 2030, which is only 6 years away, Pakistan would increase the share of basically environment friendly sources of energy up to 60%. So that tantamounts to proportionate and timely and consistent reduction in the import and use of fossil fuels. Secondly, I think in order to meet our sustainable development goals, the most critical aspect is reducing inflation, offering most of Pakistani people, consumers, industries, transport sector, affordable, sustainable energy. Because all aspects of life, whether it's industry, whether it is service sector, whether it is transport sector, whether it is consumers, they all need affordable, sustainable, environment-friendly energy. And thirdly, and most importantly, Pakistan is also a signatory to Paris Treaty. We have commitments regarding carbon emission. And most importantly, Pakistan, despite contributing less than 1% to the carbon emission in the world, is the fifth most affected country due to climate change. So while our leadership and diplomats continue to try to persuade the international community that they need to review our debt burden in accordance with the realities, the bitter realities of climate change, which has harmed our economy badly. It is very important that first we put our own house in order, and our own national energy mix is something which is environment friendly, which is affordable, which is sustainable, which is cost effective. And that makes nuclear energy perhaps the most important available option for our leadership to review and timely improve and optimize this energy mix through greater reliance and concentration over nuclear technology.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining. We would soon be back with another informative podcast. Thank you for joining us.